Hello and welcome to our new business tutorial. You're joining me, Phyllis Brown, in the Business Bubble, and we are going to be looking at personality clashes because there is a cycle that happens in all of our lives all of the time, and once we know what the formula is, it's really easy to manage. And from my experience as a training officer for many years, having this knowledge, I learned this formula back in the early 1990s actually, and I just found it quite life-changing because it's skills that you can integrate into your personal life, your family life, friendships, as well as using it as a manager or a team leader, or whatever your post is within your work environment. This particular personality, dealing with personality clashes, this tool I found life-changing. I'm hoping you will find life-changing and life-affirming, because once you recognize it, it's difficult not to recognize it, so therefore you know how to move through it. So it's a really amazing piece of knowledge and wisdom that's been out there for years and years and years, but you may not be aware of it. So I've got a presentation which I'm going to talk you through, and so I'm just going to share this presentation, so just bear with me for the moment, just a few clicks away, and we'll go on to slideshow. Okay. So, dealing with personality clashes within the workplace. Now, I'm using it as within the workplace because we are in Business Bubble. However, you can extend this formula, or you can recognize this formula to every aspect of your life, because it exists all of the time. It doesn't go away. It's who we are as humans. So, here we go. I'm excited to be sharing this information. Okay, so how to spot personality clashes within your team. So I'm just going to talk through what this cycle is. So human behavior has a cycle. We move through a variety of human emotions at any given time. We always cycle back to the beginning, so that's something to really think about. The cycle can happen at any time, during a coffee catch-up, office meeting, during a workshop, over a weekend, and over an extended period of time. And so the cycle is forming, norming, storming, norming, and then grieving. Okay, so this is what we do all of the time, and it can happen at any point in time. So if you were to think about a team meeting, we're forming, how is everyone? Yep, we're all okay. Yep, so let's look at the agenda. And so we're looking at the agenda, and then suddenly someone goes, I disagree with that. And then we're into storming. But everyone else piles in, the bun fight occurs, and then the facilitator at the head of the meeting goes, well, hang on, let's put that to one side. Back to norming, and then we come to the grieving. And the grieving is really important. It's like, oh, well, I really enjoyed that. Oh, when's our next meeting? We're already thinking about the next time. If it's a coffee catch-up, you know, you're meeting someone, you're forming, how are you doing? Then you're norming, how's the family? And then you go, oh, did you hear about such and such? Oh, I didn't hear about that. Oh, that was terrible, blah, 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 blah. We get into that really nitty-gritty stuff, the gossipy stuff. But, oh, well, I suppose about we getting on, and the norming and then the grieving then comes into, oh, I've really enjoyed today. We should do this more often. When will I see you next? That grieving process. I think for myself, teaching classes and teaching my teachers on how to teach classes, the grieving for us over a 10-week period class, it usually starts at week 7. And that's where people will start to say, the students will start to say, oh, what am I, oh, I don't know, what am I going to do without this class? Oh, what am I going to do once this finishes? Oh, we've only got 3 weeks left. Oh, we've only got 2 weeks left. Oh, we've only got, and they're changing, they're going into that grieving process. And it's really important at that time to reassure. I would reassure my students that everything's going to be okay, that they can come and join me in another class, they can form friendships and meet other students after the class, and that they can support themselves that way. If you have a team meeting, so I used to travel 6 hours to my office once a month from Scotland down into the middle of England. And so yeah, it was great seeing the admin staff for the first time in that month, meeting my chief executive and my other team members. And then I'd stay overnight and then I'd come back. So it was that great, oh, so when will I see it? Oh, I'll be down in a month's time, I'll be down in 6 weeks' time or whatever. So the forming, norming, storming, norming and grieving process is something that we do. It's part of who we are. And I think for everyone right now, we're all forming our home office. We're forming our office. So we're getting our desks ready, our space, we've got things that are really familiar to us. We might even have taken some bits and pieces off our desk, family photographs, little pen holders, things that are really familiar that makes our home office feel like a home office. And then we're in the norming. Then you'll go into the norming where, so we're going to catch up once a week online, we're doing all of that. And then maybe sort of into week 3, I know people are going online at the moment and you know that it's day 1 working from home, etc. But actually around about week 3 you might find a storming process where I don't want to go online, I can't stand these online meetings, I can't stand all the irritating behaviours that I'm seeing. So there's all of that process, and then, you know, as we're coming out of this cycle, she's like, oh, I actually quite like my office now, and the grieving is, I'll really miss my home office. I don't know if I really want to come back into a big conglomeration, a big corporate office, a big busy environment. So you're going to have all of this in various stages over different periods of time, but it absolutely will happen without a shadow of a doubt. This emotional process, this human behavioural cycle will happen. It will absolutely happen, so be prepared. So I'm just going to talk through some slides now and maybe talk about some of my personal experiences when I've seen this in different scenarios. So the forming is, that's where we're starting the relationship. It's a friendship, personal. We're gauging who people are and what they are like and if we like them, okay? So your team should already have this part. You should already know each other, etc. We're sort of gauging, do we share similar beliefs, views, likes and dislikes? So this is the forming part. And they really make us feel safe, competent, admired and loved. So we think about people in our lives, in our friendships, personal and our work life. There will be people in every aspect of your life who actually fit into all of that. They make us feel safe, competent, admired and loved. We have similar beliefs, views, likes and dislikes, and we've got a gauge, we've got a measure of who they are. So we know what pushes their buttons, we know what to say, what not to say, when to say something. So this is the forming part. And I'm sure as you start to just sort of take a moment, just close your eyes, visualize, well, who do I have in my life right now? By forming some of these relationships, what do I have in common with these people? How does that make me feel? The norming, what does the norming feel? What does norming mean for me? Just move my little screen down. So it's building a relationship. So we are familiar with each other, so we've gauged each other. We get a sense of compatibility and can spend time with each other. We're keen to see each other and find out their news or what's new. So the norming is that catching up. We should catch up for a coffee, that norming. We're compatible, we get on okay, we understand the rules, we've got our boundaries in place, and we're keen to see each other. And it's really difficult, I think, for some of you that are maybe now working in a virtual office where you're home all of the time. That bottom phrase, keen to see each other and find out their news or what's new, we'll miss that. That's part of our normal routine. Coming home, how's it been, kids? How have you had your day, sunshine? If you've got a partner, you know, if you've got a pet, who is used to that routine. They sit and wait at the door. They know exactly what time you're coming home, and so therefore they're there waiting for you. I know for us, our cats are completely confused. They're used to me working from home. So normally at 10 o'clock, the two cats will pop the door open, come in, demand some cat cuddles, and then they're off again. And they go to their separate rooms to sleep, knowing that this is how it works. This is what mom does. This is where she is. But with my husband now working from home, I have to say one of the cats is completely confused. The other cat actually really doesn't care. But one of the cats is completely confused and doesn't know what's going on. So that routine is mixed up. I think what is really good in the norming part, if you can actually take some time out to still ask how you're doing, even though you've been working together or working in the same space as your partner. You might meet over a coffee, you might have some lunch together, but please, at the end of the day, switch off your computer and go and sit down, have your glass of wine or have a soft drink, have a coffee, sit in the garden, sit on the porch, or you know, just take that time, take 5 minutes to go, so how was your day? Because that's normal behavior. That's what we would normally be doing. And even with our pets, taking that time and get them into that normal behavior. So, you know, the norming, think about what we do and how we relate to each other. The storming, when things go pear-shaped. I love that phrase, pear-shaped. So we notice everything that irritates us. We get very short-tempered, agitated by other people's needs. Our ideas clash, tempers flare. We could even get to the stage where we're not able to be in their company. So things that irritate us. So I think that you will notice in your virtual meetings, which I've talked about in another video, where you've maybe got a social butterfly who just dominates the conversation, or an expert who their opinion counts and everyone else's opinion doesn't count. That is really, really irritating, and you could get quite short-tempered. You could have some habits where you've got some people who I think I demonstrated in the crisis management. My husband's a great pen clicker. So as much as we're used to that, and he does actually go like this from time to time, where he really clicks the pen. So for some people that could be quite irritating. We've actually really tuned it out. The other thing he does is he runs his nails up and down the table, which makes this noise. Hopefully you can hear that. And that can be quite irritating. So it's really interesting because he knows when he does start running his nails up and down the desk, I just happen to look at him and then he'll stop. So irritating behaviour, habits that we're unaware of, we just do it so unconsciously, our mannerisms can get quite irritating. So, you know, it's about speaking up, not actually losing your temper, but maybe in an assertive way. I know for me, I just have to look at my partner and he will stop scraping his nails on the desk. So, you know, just an assertive way. If it does get to the stage where you have such a strong storming process that's going on, that some of your team, they just don't want to join, they just don't want to participate in your meetings, they can't stand being near that someone, then obviously that's a bigger dynamic. You're going to have to deal with both of these people separately to figure out what the damage is in terms of the person who can't be in the presence of this other person. And the other person needs to know why. They do actually need to know why. They may be doing things that aren't conscious to them. It's just part of their ritualistic habits. But once they know, then they can come out of that isolation and change their habits so that you can get back into that norming. And it's going back to the other person. I've had a conversation, they've promised they won't behave in such a way that they do apologise. You might even have to have them both together for a little bit of collaborative work going on. I think what it is for me, sometimes the expert in the group, and again, that's in my my other little business bubble business tutorial, where we've got the expert in the room, and an expert, a know-it-all, they can actually come across as the expert, but they could be really, really insecure. So therefore, they just throw out ideas, or they could become quite challenging, where it's only their opinion that counts. They are always right, and that drowns out other people's voices. It drowns out their ideas. The thing about the expert, so from a management perspective, and I want you managers out there, our personnel managers, to really think about this, because I've had a lot of experts in my time as a training officer. It's a very lonely place. An expert will quite quickly find themselves being isolated, because not just one person may not want to work with them, but several of the team might actually find that they just can't stand it. They don't want to hear their voice. They don't want to hear what they've got to say. So with your expert within your team, if you feel you have got a know-it-all, or someone who's always right, who's always challenging other people, I call them the ABOT conversations. So someone will put something out as a suggestion, and the expert might come and go, ABOT, this, this, and this, and then the other person will retaliate and go, well, actually, and then it'll be ABOT, and you have it goes back and forth, back and forth. It gets to the point where not only does the expert feel quite isolated at the moment, because no one will relate to them, but it will shut down the rest of your team, because they won't want to put ideas forward, because the expert will constantly be putting the kibosh, the IBOT, the ABOT on top of it. ABOT, this is better, or ABOT, my idea is best. So it's a really interesting process. The storming has to be managed. You can't hope that it goes away. You can't put your head in the sand and just let them just to figure it out. Well, they'll figure it out. You as the manager, the facilitator, the personnel officer, the training officer, you have to really nip this in the bud. And I have, in the past, I have asked participants to leave training workshops where their behaviour has been quite outrageous. I have dealt with the expert in that I do pull them and they sit beside me so that I can control their behaviour much better. If they sit behind me, then there's no confrontation between them and me as the facilitator or the perceived expert from the rest of the group. So if you place an expert beside you, that's will stop them challenging you directly through physical behaviour. In your virtual workshops, again, as I pointed out in my small tutorial on how to host a great virtual workshop, make them the first one to feedback, and then switch their mic off and then follow through with everyone else. But the storming part is just critical. It has to be dealt with. You can't leave the storming just to rumble away in the background, because it'll get to such a point where you'll lose good staff, or you'll lose control over a team, or your team will just, there'll be that sense of disintegration. So the storming always comes after the norming. The really good news, guys, out there, is norming. We go back to basics. Apologies are said, disagreements are put to one side. With the pen clicking thing, it's really interesting what our brain can tune out. And so if you have got someone who does click a pen during a meeting and they're just thinking, it will get to a stage where it just doesn't irritate us anymore. Our mind will go, oh, that's Eric there, and Eric the expert. So not only is he an expert, but he clicks his pen, and you'll just tune out the clicking pen habit. And what happens is that relationships get back on an even keel. Especially if apologies are said. And I think it's really important that if that needs to be done between team members, you have to facilitate that so you can get back on an even keel, because as we're working in this new environment of being in distant offices, virtual meetings, you might see all of this behaviour within that hour. Okay, you're going to see it happen. So we need to get to this norming part. And then finally, we have the grieving. The end is near. So we have that sense of impending loss of that relationship. So again, thinking about our friendships, you know, when we just know things aren't the same between us. Even though we've had apologies, it doesn't quite sit back again. We feel a sudden sadness that our normal is now going to end. So again, this will happen where your staff will be coming back into the office. So there will be a long period of this forming, norming, storming, norming, and grieving process. As I say, week 3 of virtual office communication, people will just be so irritated by it. Week 4, we're going to be fine. And then week 5, we've got to come back into the office. They're going to miss their home office. They're going to miss this environment. They're going to have to settle back into external office noise, irritations of a different kind, missing their family, even missing working in the same space or environment as their partner. That might be a different thing, and certainly they might miss their pets, their cat cuddles or dog cuddles, because the pets have found this really great. So there'll be a grieving process, that feel a sudden loss, a sadness of our normal is now going to end, and we can feel like we're taking a backward step. And that's something really interesting to think about. It's just like, do I really have to go back to the office? Do I really have to? Is that how I have to work? So that can be a challenge, the grieving at the end of whatever it is, the grieving at the end of a coffee meetup, the end of a training course. I get it all the time on my weekend, usually about mid-morning on the last day of my weekend courses. People are like, oh, I'm going to go home in 3 hours time, or you know, after a 10-week course, week 7, oh, what am I going to do next? Oh my gosh, I've only got this amount left. And some people will feel like they're taking a backward step and going back to nothing. What am I going back to? How am I going to face those work colleagues? What's it going to be like going back into that? Am I actually going backwards? Am I actually more productive working from home as compared to working in the office? So you're going to have to manage some of those thoughts and feelings as you come closer to the end of working at a distance, at the end of a new work environment, etc. The thing about it is, and I think that's the last slide, but I think I'll just go back to this slide here. The thing about it is that the forming, norming, storming, norming, grieving, it is a constant human cycle. And I think for you as managers, team leaders, training officers, personnel department officers, this process, you'll really see it. And once you go, oh, like, oh, so that's new persons, they're in that new team, or they're at the storming phase. So how do we get them back into the norming? Or if someone's leaving, moving from one department to another, oh, they're in that grieving phase. So how do we get them to associate and start forming with the new team? What's the plus points? What's the benefit of them moving into a new team? If I think at the end of the day, we're having to make really difficult decisions where we're having to tell someone that their job no longer exists, and I've been there myself, it's not It's not easy. It's definitely not easy. It's easy to fire someone if there's been gross misconduct, but when we're having to close a location or remove that function from a workplace through no fault of the staff member, then that's really quite difficult. And you'll see all of this behaviour in that cycle as they go through either the redundancy period or that leaving, shutting a process down, shutting a shop down, shutting an office down. They'll go through all of this, and it's managing, knowing that you can manage and really see each behavioural component as it starts to come to the surface. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this little business bubble business tutorial. I'm trying to put as many resources out there for you as possible, just sharing my experience and sharing some of the tools that I've used over the past 30 plus years as being in management. It would be great to hear from you. If you've got any thoughts or feelings, then please leave them at the video, or you can get in touch with me at info@phyllisbrown.co.nz, and hopefully we'll see you in our next business bubble tutorial. I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm sure I'll find something in my toolbox, create a small PowerPoint presentation and video so that you can enjoy adding those tools to your toolbox. Until the next time, please stay safe in your business bubble, and we'll catch you soon. Bye for now.